Well, the Comey book is out, as I'm sure you've heard. It kind of showed up in an oops way at a few, apparently, bookstores here in Tiny Town yesterday, and people were out scrambling to get it. And we had heard that the White House and the Republicans really didn't have that much of a plan for how to attack the Comey book. We know better now. Liar, leaker, slimeball, and hack. With none of that as our guide, let's turn to the Fox News Sunday host, Chris Wallace, who's live down in Washington. It looks like a strategy, the sort of outline of a strategy is becoming visible.
From the White House, absolutely, which is to discredit James Comey as much as possible, to say that he's just trying to sell a book, he's trying to make money, he's trying to repair his reputation, but that his reputation is irretrievably tattered. The thing that interests me about the book, I have not had an opportunity to read it. I haven't gotten a copy, but I've read exhaustive articles from the Wall Street, the Washington Post, and the New York Times, from folks who have read it. Is that there's not a lot new there. There are a lot of new characterizations, opinions of the president, that he's untethered to the truth, comparing him to a mob boss. We've heard it all now for a couple of days. But in terms of what a lot of people were expecting, in terms of bombshells, evidence, potential legal problems, not much. And in fact, Comey says that while he thinks that the president has been unethical in some of his dealings, he doesn't know that it rises to the level of illegalities. And I think that'll be the bottom line for the White House. They're not worried about what Comey thinks of Donald Trump. They're worried whether he was going to put another stone on his legal burden, and it doesn't appear he's doing that.
The president just tweeted, as he is wont to do, and this one's about Andrew McCabe. He says the DOJ just issued the McCabe report, which is a total disaster. Look at that. It appears like magic. Good job. The DOJ just issued the McCabe report, which is a total disaster. He lied, all caps. McCabe was totally controlled by Comey. McCabe is Comey. No collusion, all made up by the den of thieves and lowlifes. It could have been low lives. Low lives is probably right. But I think what's key here, if anything is key, is McCabe is Comey. Sarah Sanders did this, and now the president is doing this.
Yeah. What's interesting there is, in fact, according to the inspector, this is the independent inspector general for the Department of Justice who's investigated Andrew McCabe, particularly on this question of a leak to the Wall Street Journal that, in fact, was saying that they were investigating Hillary Clinton. So this wasn't a pro-Clinton leak. This was indicating that they were investigating the Clinton Foundation. But they say that, among other people, that McCabe misled Comey, his boss, the director of the FBI, McCabe being the deputy director. So the White House may draw some equivalence between the two. But in fact, they weren't working in concert on this because Comey said he knew nothing about this. And that McCabe had been involved in giving this information to the Wall Street Journal, which reportedly, even though the president said he lied 3 times, I think the inspector general said he lied 4 times.
Scooter Libby pardoned today. Timing is a thing, whether we want to, recognize it or not. Timing is a thing, and you wonder what the message here is, because there always is one.
Well, it is interesting because obviously Scooter Libby was convicted of perjury and obstruction of justice by another special counsel who was incidentally appointed by James Comey. That was Patrick Fitzgerald, for lying in the case of the identification of Valerie Plame as a CIA undercover operative, even though everybody agreed that it wasn't Libby who, in fact, leaked the information that ended up in Robert Novak's column. It was somebody else, Richard Armitage, in the State Department. But he supposedly lied about whether he had told other people about it. And by pardoning him, you don't have to be a magician to draw a connection between that and the president's ill feelings about the Mueller investigation.
What you got going on this weekend? Anything?
Well, and what we haven't even talked about is the potential for an act of war by the U.S. in a missile strike on Syria, which could happen in the next 48 hours.
Why don't we talk about that? It could happen in the next 48 hours. Is that reporting?
No, well, no. I'm simply saying between now and our show on Sunday.
Oh, yes.
Yes. It is interesting because, of course, the president said 24 to 48 hours back, I think, last Sunday or Monday, and we're well past that period of time. And one of the questions is, what's the delay? And supposedly the White House and the Pentagon and some of the allies are saying we want to get our act together and we want to figure out what we do after a missile strike. In other words, if they do another single set of missiles like they did a year ago after another chemical attack in the northern part of the country, what impact does that have? So they have to figure out, is there something they can do after that without getting embroiled in the civil war there? We think we're going to have a top national security official from the Trump administration to talk about that, whether the strike has taken place or not. It certainly appears it's going to happen. And then we're going to be talking to Trey Gowdy, who is the chair of the House Oversight Committee. He's deeply involved in all of this. He's investigating the FBI and the way they've handled the investigation into Donald Trump, the FISA warrant, Andrew McCabe. We'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him. He's also investigating Scott Pruitt and his ethical issues, challenges, and we'll obviously ask him about the Comey book and Robert Mueller. So, and who knows what else is going to happen in the next 48 hours or 36 hours?
Nobody knows. Well, if you need some levity and some good time, some great baseball, you can watch the Rebels play Georgia this weekend because that's happening. That'll happen on your ESPN Plus app, yeah?
That's not in the cards.
Not in the cards? Well,
it's the FBI director's job to come in and tell the president-elect everything that they knew about alleged Russian interference. He didn't do that. Why is it up to the president-elect and the members of the team who were in there?
Well, it's just beginning on this front. James Comey, the former FBI director, and the president back and forth. Comey's book coming out, an interview this weekend, and we're getting just some pieces of that in that he writes the president is unethical and untethered to truth and institutional values. His leadership is transactional, ego-driven, and about personal loyalty. The president tweeting today, James Comey is a proven leaker and liar. Virtually everyone in Washington thought he should be fired for the terrible job he did until he was, in fact, fired. He leaked classified information for which he should be prosecuted. He lied to Congress under oath. He is a weak and untruthful slimeball who was, as time has proven, a terrible director of the FBI. His handling of the crooked Hillary Clinton case and the events surrounding it will go down as one of the worst botched jobs of history. It was my great honor to fire James Comey. A lot of news on that front and a lot of fronts, frankly, this week. Let's bring in our panel. Matt Schlapp, contributor with The Hill. David Cantonese, senior politics writer for U.S. News and World Report. And Tom Rogan, commentary writer for The Washington Examiner. Okay, let's try to distill and put this in categories before we talk about Cohen and all of that. This back and forth with Comey and what's coming out of it. Matt.
Yeah, I mean, amazing tweet from the president. I have to say it captures what a lot of people think about the guy. Democrats and Republicans, I went through all the quotes from Harry Reid, from Chuck Schumer to Nancy Pelosi. And then you have all of those on the right who think that he's also unfit. For me, it's very personal because I dealt with Jim Comey when he first came into the Bush administration, and he purported to me that he was this really strong conservative Republican. But when we did his political check, we found people saying that he told the Democrats he was a Democrat, he told Republicans he was a Republican. And what you realize with Jim Comey, it is all about him. And I think he's kind of at the end of his rope where I don't know where his political friends are anymore.
I have not read the book. I will prior to this interview that's coming up April 26th. Here is the White House press secretary today on these Comey charges.
The American people see right through the blatant lies of a self-admitted leaker. This is nothing more than a poorly executed PR stunt by Comey to desperately rehabilitate his tattered reputation and enrich his own bank account by peddling a book that belongs in the bargain bin of the fiction section.
David.
So I was actually surprised. I don't think there was a bombshell in this Comey book at all. You know, the president was upset about the dossier and going to the FBI director and asking him about it. To me, that's a natural human reaction if you're accused of some of those things. But I do think the most interesting thing out of this was Comey admitting that he made a political decision when it came to releasing that Hillary Clinton letter just days before the election about her emails. We always are told, right, the FBI is above politics. He's basically admitting that no, the FBI does take politics into consideration because we thought Hillary was going to win, so we didn't think this letter was going to be that damaging. That, to me, is the most interesting thing that came out of this.
Here's a piece of that. It's entirely possible that because I was making decisions in an environment where Hillary Clinton was sure to be the next president, my concern about making her an illegitimate president by concealing the restarted investigation bore greater weight than it would have if the election appeared closer or if Donald Trump were ahead in all polls. But I don't don't know. Tom, the other news today that's getting everybody's attention is this IG report on McCabe and why he was fired. Pretty significant.
It is significant, and I think, the depth of detail there. I was speaking to a friend who works in the government. He was very skeptical of this report before it came out, and today you look at the measure of detail there, the repeated accusations. It becomes very hard, I think, to see Deputy Director McCabe in the kind of positive light that perhaps he has tried to present himself since the firing. And again, in the context of the Comey book, which I agree with David, doesn't actually have the tangible bombshell that we were led to believe. Frankly, you have to think from the president's point of view, this all looks pretty good for him. And then you wonder, well, why does he tweet about it? Perhaps that's the emotional thing.
Yeah, the McCabe, Chairman Goodlatte weighed in on this IG report, saying Mr. McCabe repeatedly lied under oath about the disclosure of information to a reporter. In doing so, he not only violated FBI policy, but he may have committed a federal crime. It is unfortunate that Mr. McCabe's distinguished career at the FBI has ended this way, but it is apparent that Attorney General Sessions made the right decision. His attorney has released a statement saying he didn't believe that the IG's report was accurate or complete. Matt, you saw the FBI director, Chris Wray, saying that this went by the book. As you read the details of this IG report, it seems like they had enough there.
30 pages that goes into detail about why McCabe broke. Let's just say it this way. Every policy about this that the FBI has, even broke Comey's own policies about how you deal with the press. And let's remember, this is an Obama-appointed IG confirmed by the Senate. This is not a Donald Trump appointee who's trying to settle scores. This is a fair-minded IG looking at the record, and the record is terrible. And as an American, I hate to think that this actually happened at the FBI. I want to think that this doesn't happen.
Okay. Scooter Libby pardoned today. The president in a statement saying, I don't know Mr. Libby, but for years I've heard that he has been treated unfairly. Hopefully this full pardon will help rectify a very sad portion of his life. This is a very big victory for Dick Cheney, who wanted George W. Bush to do this very thing. He did not. But is it deeper than that in a signal when a special counsel, a special investigator, is charging people, and is it a message to other people saying, I have your back later on?
Yeah, I tried to reach out and talk to some White House officials about this. Why today? What was the significance of today? And look, remember, George W. Bush passed on a pardon for Scooter Libby. Why is Donald Trump, in his own statement, he's saying, I don't really know the case, I don't really know the guy, but it seems like he was treated unfairly. To me, this is a signal to his other aides that he has the power to inoculate them if they come under fire. To me, you can't read it any other way, especially with all this other news with Comey and McCabe.
Here's Sarah Sanders specifically asked about that aspect of potential linkage there.
The president's been clear that he has a deep concern about the direction the special counsel has taken. The investigation started as Russia collusion, of which there was none. One thing has nothing to do with the other, and every case should be reviewed on their own merits. Pardoning Libby was the right thing to do.
Tom.
Yeah, look, I think it's quite clear that this is about Manafort, it's about Cohen potentially, it's about the president saying, look, I'm going to support you if you stand with me. But ultimately, I think just going back to this broad environment of the kind of president versus the judiciary, one interesting insulating factor here is Director Wray. I actually think, as much as you do see a few comments from the White House, Director Wray staying off the radar, that is going to be the ultimate takeaway, whatever happens, that the FBI is, you're going to get a lot less engagement with the press, I think.
Same time, and we'll wrap up here, the president calling his longtime personal attorney, Michael Cohen, today, who were learning more about what was taken, what agents took out of his office and home or apartment. Interesting move for the president to reach out in this environment?
Yeah, I think, well, it's unsettling, and this is a man who's his personal lawyer. And once again, you want to believe that the attorney-client privilege would hold, certainly for the President of the United States under the special counsel. Now, we're being told that maybe this is about all different types of things outside the scope of the investigation, but this is all very chilling and unnerving, I think, for the American people who expect certain norms. And I guess in this day and age, there are no norms.
Here's the thing, though. I think this is being missed. Attorney-client privilege is not covered with business dealings, and Michael Cohen was a political aide. He didn't only deal with legal stuff. He was a maker and a shifter on all Trump events.
Let me try here. I understand that this could be about Mr. Cohen's business deals,
yes.
but there is no question when they do this that they pick up extraneous documents. And now DOJ is going to go through a process when they're already under scrutiny as to how fair they are to Donald Trump and to his team. They're going to go through a process. It looks political, and it's going to be hard for them to get out of this.